I was friends with Jonathan for many years, yes, and yeah, it's a beautiful exhibition. I mean, the guy was an amazing artist and a close friend for many years. I probably know more about Jonathan and his working habits or his reading and everything than anybody alive. He had a very sharp wit and was devastating to in argument with people. He really would, in public discussions, he'd ask a question that would just wipe out the speaker. And, he was fearless that way. He just, it wasn't that he said everything that came to his mind, but he said a hell of a lot of things, and every one of them everything was always very, very sharp and pungent and to the point, exact, precise, and very vicious a lot. But he had a tenacity that was, really unparalleled. I was lucky to know him, and we were lucky actually to know each other at that age, which was, we were very young. I mean, he was 5 years older than I was, but, I think I met him when I was 23 and he was 28, and we stayed friends for right up until close before he died. And then we kind of had a parting of ways, which is, happens a lot with people. But we had a remarkable run of interactive or exchange of artistic and personal subject that it's just, you can't buy that kind of stuff. You just can't. It's not available. You're lucky if you have it with another person that you can share so much, especially somebody, from my perspective, who was so gifted. He had tremendous limitations that, I filled in the gap on the other side a lot, and so it was just I've never seen any relationship, maybe Braque and Picasso or Cezanne and Pizarro, but I've just never seen most people aren't interested in that kind of sharing, and or they don't do it with one person, they do it with multiple people. So that was very, very unusual, and so, it's hard to tell where either of us would have gotten with it if we had known each other. Now, there were other people involved that were also very important. Lance Solveroli early on, and Bruce Gagné, who was a big part of all those four artists' growth and development, early growth and development, and it was a very difficult period of time, I think, for all the people that went to North Carolina, which was Bruce, Lance, Jonathan, and Agostini. Up to a certain point, especially before he had the opportunities that came to him later in the commercial world, he would share with certain people, like me, and I with him, or with Bruce, or with Lance. But he's very competitive. He's competitive with himself and competitive with everybody else. Yeah, he's well-read, tremendously well-read. Played the piano very beautifully. Drew incessantly. We used to watch Kojak, and he would sit there and draw a lot of these small head drawings, and not so much these ones. I've never seen these ones behind us, but the little beautiful Da Vinci-esque Braque, Picasso, Giacometti, whatever label would want to put on them, they're really mostly his own inventions, but they're constructed off of those other artists a lot. He would do them while he's watching TV, and it's different. The ones from the model. I mean, the interesting thing about Jonathan, probably more than any other artist imaginable, was that the drawings, and there's only 3 of them that are here that I see. There might be other ones that were done from the model. I taught here. He was actually his entrance into this building was because of me and the fact that I was teaching here, and I invited him to do crits, and he came in and would draw in my class in the back, wonderful back sculpture room they have here. And he would do that, stand 3 hours, draw from the model, of which those are products on the wall over there, do these exquisitely rendered, tight, beautiful, constructed, personal drawings that had no relationship really to anybody else's drawings, except maybe somebody like Da Vinci. They had a little bit of an offshoot from Agostini, but they were so devoted to the surrender to reality and to figuring out the linkage and proportion and movement within the figure. They were extremely constrained. Any normal person who was a student at the time or anything would walk up to look at the drawings, and they would not look at them because they were so insignificant looking, but they were, it's like thinking you go to the Delacroix show uptown, those drawings are small too, but one doesn't think they're insignificant, and Jonathan's weren't either. But people they just didn't look at drawings that small, at least not very hard, but they were remarkable drawings. And it was in that compression, it was my belief, that it was in that compression of his drawings, the restrictions that he placed on himself, the discipline of looking and surrendering to reality, allowed him to do his last work, his later, more hysterical groups of figures. That even though they're at the opposite end of the expression, one is rendered tightly and contained, and the other was explosive and totally uncontained. I believe that there is particular to him, a proportion that one allowed the other to happen, or one forced the other to happen in a way that I don't know any other artist, maybe Messerschmitt. I don't know FX Messerschmitt. I don't know any other artist that I could say that I know or ever met or studied that I could say that about, that kind of restriction, discipline led to such a explosion of expression.